Welcome back aboard our ship on a continuous journey toward the essence of truth. Since our journey began, we have been sailing through waves of questions, searching for answers and getting closer, step by step, to the light that dispels the darkness of ignorance. In the previous episode, we reflected on the question, can the mind be a tool for knowing the Creator? Today, we continue our voyage across this vast sea to address a new question. Could supplication, munajat, be the means that the Creator has provided to know Him? Let us continue the journey together, for the road ahead is still long, the heart still beats with passion, and the mind is thirsty for more knowledge. At a moment during the night, when everything around you quiets down, you find yourself free from the noise of daily life. When you feel that the mind is not enough to explain everything you experience, and when the external world does not give you the answers you need, you naturally turn to that pure moment, where you converse with the one you know is listening, even if no words come out of you. This desire to speak and communicate with your Creator is called munajat, supplication. It is not just words spoken, but rather a conversation of the soul with its Creator. Munajat is a gateway to direct communication with Allah, where a person opens their heart in moments of stillness, seeking guidance and direction. This spiritual experience gives a person a sense of peace and reassurance, and is an opportunity to contemplate major existential issues that abstract rationality may not be able to resolve. Throughout history, many scholars and philosophers have turned to munajat, supplication, when confronted with questions beyond the capabilities of the human mind alone. Plato, an ancient Greek philosopher and a student of Socrates, is considered one of the most prominent thinkers in the history of Western philosophy. He spoke about the importance of intuition and supplication in attaining knowledge, pointing out that they serve as a means to rise above the sensory world and reach the ultimate truth. Al-Ghazali, the Islamic jurist and philosopher, in his book Ihya Ulum al-Din, Revival of Religious Sciences, emphasized the importance of spiritual experience in attaining true knowledge, noting that true knowledge comes from the heart, not just the intellect. This reflects the depth of the spiritual experience and its role in guiding an individual. However, although it is a genuine means that leads to the truth, it is not sufficient by itself. There are negative aspects to munajat or spiritual communication if it is misused or misinterpreted. We must be cautious not to confuse it with other forms of mental experiences that may be misleading. In this context, let us shed light on some of these aspects. Illusions are false beliefs that are not based on reality. Some may believe that what they feel or hear during munajat is a divine message, while it may actually be the result of personal desires or mistaken perceptions. Ibn Sina, the Muslim philosopher and physician, is regarded as one of the most famous scholars in Islamic history, with significant contributions to medicine and philosophy. In his book Al-Isharat wa al-Tanbihat, Remarks and Admonitions, he warned that reliance on illusions may lead to neglecting objective truths. Hallucinations are unreal sensory perceptions that create false impressions. For instance, a person suffering from auditory hallucinations may believe they are hearing a divine voice guiding them to make certain decisions, when in reality, these voices are the result of a psychological disorder. Freud, a psychoanalyst and the founder of psychoanalysis, in his study of hallucinations, noted that these perceptions may occur due to psychological stress or mental disorders, making them entirely unreliable. From a religious perspective, it is believed that Satan may try to seduce a person with obsessive thoughts, so that he thinks that what he feels is divine guidance, while in reality it is just satanic whispers. Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyya, a Muslim scholar, jurist and student of Ibn Taymiyyah, referred to this in his book Rescue of the Distressed from the Traps of Satan. Some people rely on dreams as a means to make decisions in their lives. Over-reliance on dreams may lead to making incorrect decisions. A person might believe they receive divine guidance through a dream, while the dream could merely be a reflection of their desires or fears. Carl Jung, a psychoanalyst and the founder of analytical psychology, studied dreams extensively and noted that dreams may be projections of a person's thoughts and fears and are not necessarily messages from an external source. In some cases, supplication, munajat, may lead to extreme interpretations if not accompanied by proper guidance. Some individuals may believe they have received divine instructions to commit violent or immoral acts based on their misinterpretation of their spiritual experience. In some cases, dishonest individuals may exploit the idea of supplication or communication with the Creator for personal gain. These individuals may claim that they have special abilities to communicate with Allah or that they have received personal messages from Him. They use these claims to influence others, whether to gain money or to achieve social or political status. Throughout the depths of human history, we find many stories about individuals who claim to communicate with higher powers, whether those powers were angels, spirits, or even Allah Himself. The motivation was not always prophecy or delivering a clear divine message. Sometimes, the goal was personal or social gain. However, as we all know, such claims often come with negative consequences, especially if they are misused or interpreted incorrectly. Over the ages, there have been leaders with charisma and an extraordinary ability to persuade others, but they use these abilities to exploit people. Let us look at some of these individuals and how they manage to influence their followers, sometimes in painful and tragic ways. Let's start with the story of Sabbatai Zevi. In the 17th century, in the Jewish world, this man emerged claiming to be the awaited Messiah. Imagine the hope he planted in the hearts of his followers, as he promised them salvation and that he would unite the world under his rule. But the great shock came when he was forced, under pressure from the Ottoman Sultan, to convert to Islam. This step stunned his followers and caused great disappointment. Who would have thought that the man they believed would save them would end up renouncing his own faith? Next, we move to another controversial figure, Jim Jones. This man founded what was called the People's Temple in the United States, claiming that he spoke in the name of Allah. But he didn't stop at just words. He went further, leading his followers to establish an isolated community in the jungles of Guyana. What followed was an unforgettable tragedy. In 1978, Jones convinced his followers that their mass suicide was the path to salvation. More than 900 people perished in one of the most horrific incidents associated with a false religious leader. Yes, imagine how one person could lead hundreds to their deaths, all under the guise of communicating with higher powers. However, not all stories involve tragic deaths. Sometimes, the person claiming to communicate with spiritual beings is merely a mysterious figure seeking to spread new ideas. One example is Aleister Crowley, known as a magician and spiritual teacher. Crowley claimed to communicate with unseen entities like angels and demons, receiving instructions from a spiritual being he called Iwas. Although some considered him a fraud, his influence remains present in modern Western occult and spiritual movements. Imagine how a man like this could leave a lasting mark that endures for decades after his time. From the world of magic to the world of Eastern spirituality, we encounter Helena Blavatsky. This woman founded the Theosophical Society, a mysterious spiritual movement claiming to communicate with the Mahatmas, spiritually advanced beings living in distant places like the Himalayas. If we look at the psychological side of these individuals, some studies suggest that such people often possess narcissistic traits and suffer from psychological disorders such as delusions of grandeur. They use religion as a tool to control others, especially those who feel vulnerable or are seeking spiritual answers. Sometimes, The person claiming to communicate with Allah or spiritual beings is a victim of their own delusions. The human mind is complex, and it can interpret internal sensations or random thoughts as divine messages. There are cases in psychiatry related to religious hallucinations, where a person believes they are communicating with Allah or hearing divine voices, while these experiences are actually caused by brain disorders. Immanuel Kant, the famous German philosopher, doubted the possibility of direct communication with invisible beings. He emphasized that the human mind is limited in its ability to understand the metaphysical world, and such claims of communication with angels or spirits may merely be psychological projections or misinterpretations of internal experiences. Freud, the pioneer of psychoanalysis, believed that spiritual experiences and communication with angels or Allah could be the result of repressed desires or psychological needs. In the modern era, there is widespread criticism of the concept of spiritual communication, with this phenomenon being analyzed through modern sciences such as psychiatry and neuroscience. Neurologists believe that some spiritual experiences may be the result of abnormal brain activity, such as hallucinations or delusions that may occur due to brain disorders. Certain psychological conditions, like schizophrenia, can make a person believe they are communicating with invisible beings. Social psychologists suggest that individuals who believe they communicate with God or angels may be victims of social influence or psychological pressure. These individuals may seek answers to their spiritual or religious questions and find comfort or belonging in these experiences. Moses Maimonides, one of the greatest philosophers and scholars in the Jewish tradition, strongly cautioned against relying on personal spiritual experiences or claims of direct contact with God without reference to Jewish law. He believed that reason and the Torah were the primary sources for understanding God's will, not personal experiences or inner feelings, which could be misleading. St. Thomas Aquinas, a prominent theologian, argued that contact with angels only occurs when God wills it, and that any attempt to go beyond this context or seek direct contact with spiritual beings would lead to error. Ibn Taymiyyah, a jurist and interpreter who played an important role in reforming Islamic thought, had a clear view on contact with jinn. He warned against engaging in attempts to communicate with them or relying on so-called spiritual mediation, saying that jinn can mislead people and guide them down the wrong path, because they are not always honest or trustworthy. He stressed that such attempts can lead to polytheism or deviation from religion. Al-Ghazali, in his book Ihya Ulum al-Din, Revival of Religious Sciences, discussed spirituality and spiritual communication, but emphasized that any spiritual experience must be governed by the Sharia, Islamic law, and intellect. He stated that any alleged communication with invisible beings must be evaluated according to religious standards. In conclusion, after analyzing these perspectives, we come to the understanding that it is important to distinguish between the true spiritual experience that comes through communion and the delusions or hallucinations that may arise from psychological or mental disorders. True communication is balanced, calm, and consistent with moral and rational values, while delusions and hallucinations are often confused, illogical, and lead to irrational actions. It can be said that direct communication with the Creator is essentially a profound means of spiritual communication. In moments of solitude and prayer, a person finds a space to draw closer to Allah and express his feelings and needs. It is a moment of spiritual purity and clarity that may give a person a feeling of peace and comfort. However, despite the depth of this experience, it cannot be used alone, so that it does not become a potential source of misguidance or misinterpretation. It must be combined with knowledge and rationality. Hence, we conclude that speaking with the Creator may indeed be one of the means of reaching knowledge of the truth, but it is not sufficient on its own. We have taken one step closer to the truth, and on the horizon, Another means appears that could lead us to knowledge of the Creator. Seeing the Creator. Could this be the true way to know Him? And why do we not see Him? And if we were to see Him, would we believe? In the next episode, inshallah, we will confront this question together and search for the answer. Your journey toward the truth is an ongoing one. It may seem arduous and long, but it is worth every effort made to reach the desired goal. It is a journey that requires patience, reflection, and deep thinking. But in the end, it carries within it the most beautiful meanings and the deepest values. Stay with us, for the answer to this question may be a new key to a deeper understanding of our lives and our purposes. The horizon remains vast before us, and the journey is not yet over. I ask Allah to make us among those who learn and act upon what they have learned, so that our knowledge becomes a light that illuminates our path in this world and the hereafter. And peace be upon you, and the mercy of Allah and His blessings.